The jungle moon of Threx 9 had never known silence. It was a place of deep growls, snapping mandibles, and the kind of tension that even the air seemed afraid to disturb. Every leaf dripped with the scent of prey and predator alike, an unending ballet of survival that had played out for millennia. Among its most feared inhabitants were the Vrakai, towering reptilian hunters, their hides armored in obsidian scales and their eyes burning with golden ferocity. They were apex predators in every sense. Even the most daring species of the Threx system avoided their hunting grounds. So when 3 Vrakai cubs vanished, it shook the jungle to its core. The mother, Vreeth, was a storm of claws and fury. Her roars cracked the canopy like thunder, sending entire flocks scattering into the skies. The males of her pack formed search parties, their nostrils flaring for the scent of blood or fear. The Vrakai did not lose their young. Ever. And yet, the cubs were gone. Days later, a patrol picked up a strange heat signature deep in the forest, not Vrakai, not Threxian, not even remotely natural. It pulsed in even, rhythmic patterns. Mechanical. Controlled. Artificial. An outsider. Vreeth was the first to reach the source, her claws cutting through moss and vine as she crept into a clearing bathed in soft, artificial light. The jungle floor was flattened by some kind of crash, a metal vessel, scarred and smoking. Human design. The predators knew of the species. Humans, the tiny, fragile creatures from the blue planet who had, somehow, spread across the stars. The galaxy mocked them for their weakness, yet feared them for their unpredictability. The Vrakai had never met one before. Vreeth crouched low, nostrils flaring. She caught the scent of her cubs, faint, but close. Her pupils narrowed into slits as she followed the trail through broken branches until she reached the heart of the wreck. There, inside the hollow of the ship, lay the most unbelievable sight her ancient eyes had ever beheld. A human, bloodied but alive, was lying on the cold floor. His torso rose and fell with shallow breaths. His suit, scorched, punctured, and soaked with both blood and mud, identified him as a Terran Explorer Corps pilot. But that wasn't what made Vreeth pause. Curled up against his chest, 3 small, scaly bodies, were her cubs. Fast asleep. They were nestled beneath his arm, snoring softly, the smallest one's tail draped across the man's chin. The human's hand rested protectively over them, as if shielding them from the world itself. Vreeth froze. She could feel her heart hammering, instincts warring within her. The urge to lunge and tear apart the creature who dared touch her offspring, but also something else. A scent. Her cubs smelled of safety. Not fear. Not pain. Just warmth. When the human stirred, the cubs mewled in protest, nuzzling closer. His cracked lips twitched in the faintest smile. "Easy, little ones. I've got you," he whispered, unaware of the massive predator watching him from the shadows. His voice was rough, strained from dehydration, but gentle, a tone Vreeth had never heard directed at prey. The human opened his eyes and froze. They locked onto Vreeth's golden gaze. Neither moved. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, very slowly, the human lifted one shaking hand, palm open, showing he held no weapon. "They wandered into the crash," he rasped. "Wasn't gonna hurt, em." He coughed weakly, crimson staining his teeth. "Kept em warm. Till someone came." He slumped back, exhaustion overtaking him. The cubs stirred, one letting out a tiny growl that was more adorable than threatening. Vreeth stepped forward, her shadow swallowing the man whole. Her talons hovered inches from his chest. She could end him in a heartbeat. Instead, she lowered her massive head and sniffed. Her cubs purred in their sleep. The scent of her offspring mingled with his, wrapped together like strands of fate. The human had risked his life, not for power, not for glory, but for 3 helpless creatures that weren't even his own species. For reasons she could not name, Vreeth's killing urge faded into something foreign. Respect, perhaps. Or gratitude. When the rescue team from the Terran fleet arrived 2 days later, they found a scene that defied every known law of the jungle. The human, identified as Lieutenant Daniel Ross, was alive, though barely. His distress beacon had burned out hours earlier. But what stunned the medics was what they found around him. 4 Vrakai, massive and silent, forming a circle of protection around his body. When the Terran medics approached, the predators did not attack. They merely stepped aside, watching with alien intelligence as humans carried their comrade to safety. One of the cubs let out a small, curious chirp, and Vreeth gently nudged it back, eyes never leaving Ross. It was not a look of hatred. It was a look of recognition. Weeks later, as Ross recovered aboard the hospital ship Aurora's Edge, he recounted fragments of what happened. He'd crash-landed after a navigation malfunction. His survival pod had ruptured. While scavenging for water, he'd found the cubs caught in a snare. Their cries had echoed through the jungle. I couldn't just leave them, he told his debriefing officer. Didn't matter what they were. They were kids. Scared, alone. He had freed them, carried them back to the wreck, and shared his emergency heat pack and ration gel. He'd sung old Earth lullabies to calm their growls, songs his mother once sang to him. By the time he passed out from blood loss, they were sleeping on his chest. The Vrakai never attacked the rescue convoy. In fact, their hunting parties avoided all human landing zones for months afterward. Scouts reported something even stranger: the Vrakai had begun leaving fresh kills near human outposts, offerings, perhaps, or tokens of alliance. The Threx 9 incident became legend. Years later, when humanity and the Vrakai signed their first peace accord, the document bore 2 seals, one of the Terran Federation, and one clawprint pressed in fresh ink, the mark of Vreeth, matriarch of Threx 9. During the ceremony, she leaned close to Ross, now Ambassador Ross, and spoke in the guttural tones of her kind, translated through a neural link. You smelled of danger when I found you, she said. But my young smelled of peace. That is, a strange power, human. Ross smiled faintly. We're a strange species. She blinked, slow and deliberate, the predator's gesture of respect. And a worthy one, she said. Across the stars, the story spread like wildfire. The tale of the fearsome predator and her missing cubs, and the fragile human who kept them safe with nothing but his warmth and his will, became a symbol. Not of dominance. Not of conquest. But of something rarer. Compassion as strength. Because in a galaxy of teeth and claws, humanity had proven something extraordinary, that the greatest power in the universe wasn't found in muscle or might, but in a heart that refused to stop caring, even when it had every reason to. And somewhere, on the jungled moon of Threx 9, under twin suns and endless mist, 3 half-grown Vrakai cubs still sometimes gazed at the stars, and wondered when their strange, fragile friend might come back.